Hello, my fellow seekers. Welcome to Into the Work, therapy for empaths, seekers, and the intuitively driven, where you have front row seats to therapy sessions and expert interviews that will help you define the important work that you're here to do. So I guess you actually have something better than front row seats. You practically have a seat on my couch. That's right, you will have unrestricted access to actual sessions with real people, exploring real life issues. You will continue to be inspired by powerful conversations with experts and healers that might just share exactly what it is that you need to hear to get unstuck. I am Michelle Poverman. I am a recovering people pleaser and former anxiety-driven empath, turned now mostly grounded psychotherapist and intuitive coach. I have been helping people for almost 20 years manage their limiting beliefs and anxiety to finally stop the self-sabotage and step into their gifts. I created this podcast, Into the Work, to give you a place to learn more about yourself and give you actionable strategies to finally move those roadblocks holding you back so you can go for what you want. Above all else, my hope is that this podcast is a catalyst for your awakening. If you're listening, you've already taken a step towards getting off of autopilot, and our next steps together will be taken episode by episode, waking you up to the possibilities, the new ways of thinking and being, so that you can stretch into that next level of your story. The spark has already been lit, and my friend, this is a journey from spark to brilliance. So together, let's light a fire. Hey there. Welcome to Into the Work, therapy for empaths and seekers. I'm your host, Michelle Poverman, and today I have a question. Do you believe that you actually have good boundaries? And I don't mean the kind you think you have just because you say no sometimes. I mean the kind of boundaries that are rooted in your self-worth, your clarity, and your true energetic alignment. So many of us believe that we're doing okay with boundaries because we've had a few of those tough conversations, because maybe we finally stopped answering that toxic text thread, right? You just started ghosting it. And while those moments do matter, they're not the whole picture. Today, I want to offer you a deeper understanding of what real soul-aligned boundaries look like and how to recognize when yours are out of balance. So let's dig in, okay? Boundaries, first of all, I just want to say they're not walls. They're not ultimatums. They're not punishments. Honestly, boundaries aren't really even about the other person. Boundaries are your sacred container. They're what allow your energy, your time, your gifts, and your truth to flourish in this lifetime. When you have good boundaries, you are not in constant overdrive trying to manage others' expectations or feelings, right? Well, how other people feel. You're not shrinking or inflating yourself to be digestible to others. And most importantly, you are not abandoning yourself in the process of connection. So let's go deeper. Here are 7 powerful signs that your boundaries are actually healthy and soulfully aligned. We're going to break down really what the meaning is behind them. That's the most important part, okay? So number 1, you are able to be deeply compassionate with other people without abandoning yourself. Instead, you're holding your ground. You don't have to harden your heart or cut people off in order to stay grounded. Your empathy isn't a threat to your energy, okay? You can hold your ground without guilt or shutting down. So another way to look at this is you don't collapse under pressure or immediately second guess yourself when somebody pushes back either, right? Like you can be compassionate without self-abandoning. You might still even feel discomfort, but you hold steady, especially when it's about your well-being. This is a sign that you're able to self-reference and trust your inner knowing. I may feel bad for saying no, but I still know it's the right thing for me, so I do it. Number 2, you can let other people be upset. You can let them be confused or disappointed without losing your center. You're not hijacked by their emotional state. So you can stay connected to yourself even when others are super activated. You can receive other people's boundaries without taking it personally, right? So when other people are super activated and they're upset or they're disappointed, maybe even at you, right? Maybe they're even flexing some of their own boundaries of what they have as boundaries. You can receive those boundaries without taking it personally, right? When someone says no to you, your ego might flinch. You might feel, that little hurt, but your deeper self doesn't spiral. You don't assume it means rejection or abandonment. That's not the programming anymore. You can hold both your feelings and the truth of the other person's boundary all at once. This means you're not just safe to be around, you're actually safe to disagree with. So you have good boundaries if you hold your own and you're allowed to you allow other people to be upset. And you can appreciate and respect their boundaries. You may not even love, you might even want to high five them because you're like, that is actually really cool that you just did that boundary for me. I'm going to do more of that myself. I want you to feel inspired when other people show you their boundaries, because that shows you that you yourself are growing and that it gives you permission, and you're giving that person permission. And that's why you are safe to disagree with. Some people think they have great boundaries, but they are not safe to disagree with, and they are not taking responsibility around that. So you will allow, number three, you allow people to have their own experience without trying to rescue, fix, or control it. This one is huge for us. You're not a fixer anymore. You trust their journey. You release the need to be the hero. You don't need to save the day. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be of service and be helpful when somebody is in need of figuring that out for themselves. And a lot of times we lose sight of that when we don't have good boundaries. We lose sight of we feel so strongly we have to go in and control or fix, and we need to make their journey better and easier. And the reality is they need it to be exactly where it is. And we can respect that. We respect their struggle. We respect it and say, good for you. You can do this. We encourage people. We give them confidence to keep pushing through instead of taking over and fixing. And so you don't overfunction or feel over responsible with others because of this nuance has been healed. So you've stopped rescuing, like we said, and you know that compassion is not the same as caretaking. You can be compassionate with somebody without caretaking. That's a really big one for some of us. The compassion is different than caretaking. And you trust that other adults are allowed to have their own experience, even if it's messy, even if it's emotional or uncomfortable. And this frees you from the role of being the emotional manager. So number 4, you have good boundaries when you say what you mean and mean what you say without sugarcoating it to manage reactions. You communicate with truth and kindness, not manipulation masked as kindness, and certainly not as passive-aggressive or just passive, right? On the flip side, you don't absorb all the criticism that you might get as truth. So when you say what you mean and mean what you say, and you're with somebody and you're being clear as day, and somebody criticizes you or you receive criticism, you don't absorb it as truth. So when somebody has feedback or judgment, your internal boundary steps in. You pause. You ask, is that true for me? You no longer absorb it blindly or crumble under that toxic shame dump. This is your inner filter at work and a sign of your self-worth and your inner clarity. So when you are in that place where you no longer are sugarcoating it to manage other people's reactions and you're just saying what you have to say, on the flip side, you also don't absorb other people's criticism that comes at you, and you're really able to acknowledge what's true for you and not, and kind of push back that energy back to where I say back to sender, right? Send it back to sender. So releasing it and giving it back and holding what's true for you as, the word. That's your truth. Number 5, you can hold your power and stay open to intimacy at the same time. I will tell you this one right here, this is it. Being able to stand in your power, say your truth, go through the checklist we just went through, right? You speak your truth. You're not being passive. You can allow other people to be upset, confused, disappointed without changing that. You hold your ground without guilt or shutting down. You're deeply compassionate, right? All that you're able to do. And at the same time, as you're holding on to your power and what is true to you, you can stay open to intimacy. And this one is, my friends, a very difficult one. Boundaries aren't used to shut people out. They do create the safety that's needed to let people in. So what I'm talking about here is feeling safe while you're holding your boundary. Not needing to keep people at a distance, but truly leaning in to that other person, even when it feels difficult and hard, without losing yourself, losing your power, or self-abandoning in any way, right? And intimacy in itself can be tricky for a lot of us. And so if you experience intimacy stuff, like maybe your attachments around it are challenging, maybe intimacy in itself can trigger you to feel too vulnerable, maybe you freeze up during intimacy. And I don't just mean sex intimacy, I mean intimacy in relationship, communication and being available, present, and vulnerable and honest and compassionate, right? Intimacy is truly being open to what another person is experiencing and allowing that other person to receive you and experience what is true to you. And so that is such a beautiful dance. You'll see in couples therapy a lot. We see the major work in couples therapy is for you to be able to have the goal of an argument or a conflict be that everybody understands everybody else. That the goal of a conflict that's happening is that I get to understand you better, right? The goal isn't I win, you lose. It's I want to understand you more deeply. That's the kind of intimacy that you can have when you can hold your power and stay open to it at the same time. Now, on the flip side, you also don't need people to see it your way or do it your way, right? You understand that separateness isn't rejection, right? This is the flip side of things. It's sovereignty. Your ability to stay connected without merging is one of the most advanced signs of soulful boundary work, and interconnectedness is the true goal. And so if you are able to recognize that my separateness is sacred as much as my connection is sacred, and that I owe it to myself to feed my separateness, to nurture my separateness, as well as to nurture my connection, that both are equally important and part of the interconnected balance that we need to have in our relationships. So number 6, you don't take responsibility for someone else's feelings, but you can still offer empathy. So this may seem kind of obvious, but let's just dive into it for a second. There is a difference between caring about somebody and their pain and carrying somebody's pain, right? You've learned to honor that difference. You take ownership of your own triggers and emotional reactions to other people's stuff, right? You still might get activated, but because you're human, but instead of lashing out or blaming or taking on responsibility like it's your fault, you get curious. This is how you know you have good boundaries. Your curiosity gets piqued instead of your reactivity. You see the difference? So I am either going to be curious about you or I'm going to be reactive to you. And if you have good boundaries, you have moved out of reactivity and into curiosity. It's another beautiful thing. You get to be curious. You can say, You can even be curious about your own response. Like, that hit something in me. I need a moment here because that kind of upset me, and I'm not sure why. So I can't really talk about it right now. I just need to be curious about it. I'll get back to you, right? It sounds a little high level there, but you know what I'm saying? Like there's ways in which you can communicate being curious about your own experience, as well as saying, I don't know if I completely understand what you're saying. I want to be more curious instead of reactive, right? Instead of getting into your defenses, like how dare they say that, or how they shouldn't be bringing that up. They should be doing this differently, right? Should. And instead, you're being curious, like, look at that. That's interesting that she's feeling this way. I want to ask her more about that or him about that. And so that is another sign, that curiosity. And when you can be more curious and you can go inward as well and be curious about your own experience, this means your boundaries are not only external, but they are internal. And you have self-regulation tools. And that, my dear, is a boundary too. In fact, in my program that I have, and we're going to talk about here in a minute, is that in my Modern Empaths Boundary Mastery program, we spend a third of the program just leaning into what are the boundaries you have with yourself. Then we get into what are the boundaries you have with other people, because it's that important. It's the foundation of everything that you need to heal. So number 7, you don't need to explain or justify your decisions to be at peace with them. You've stopped needing others to co-sign your truth, sister. You know what I'm saying? You do not need other people to tell you if your truth is okay, if that makes sense, right? You don't need to try out your opinions or decisions on other people. Your integrity is enough. You believe in your own worth and you act accordingly. This is sort of the quiet foundation under it all. When you have achieved this sense of worth, this sense of knowing and deep connection within yourself, that I'm in my integrity, it's okay. You believe your needs matter. You allow yourself to want what you want. You give yourself permission to be seen, heard, and known without apology. In fact, you understand that the whole reason you put effort into setting a boundary is so that your relationship can deepen or be fair when you are being seen, heard, and known. And those are very important things for you, and you honor them in other people too. It's not just like the Michelle show here, right? Like it's not just about me being seen, heard, and known. I also want to hold space for people to be seen, heard, and known. And so that in itself are a lot about what boundaries are about. And we are very misguided to believe, because everything online and everything you find on some level is about closing the door, shutting people down. And sometimes we do need to have consequences like that. And, that could also be a sign that your boundaries are good, that you are clearly saying, no, that's not okay. And there are consequences to those people that want to keep coming for your boundaries and completely don't respect your boundaries and just want to push them aside and not care about them. And that's something we also talk about in my program, is how do you respond to the different types of people in the world? There are different levels of responses that you are required to do for certain people, right? Certain people who are just sort of like those big red flags people, right? Those are different. But what we're talking about here really is what makes it safe for you to receive more when you're in relationship with others, to receive more love, to receive more support, receive abundance and intimacy and all those things. Because your boundaries are all about, in the end, you receiving and giving in a beautiful dance that makes sense in the intimacy of relationships. Now, there are many misconceptions that can really keep you stuck. So many of us confuse boundaries with coldness and disconnection and selfishness, right? So as empaths, we're often taught that it's noble to overextend, to self-sacrifice, to be the emotional sponge. But let me tell you something. There truly is nothing noble about your burnout. There is nothing soulful about living in resentment. There is nothing sustainable about contorting yourself in order to be loved or accepted or to not disappoint people. good boundaries aren't the opposite of love. They are the framework for healthy love. And many of us didn't learn the framework growing up because our parents didn't learn the framework growing up. And so this has been ancestrally passed down to us. And therefore, it's our time to break the cycle. We have to be cycle breakers. It's time for us to recognize this is my truth and this matters. And it's so important for me to learn how to show up. And it's going to change how you show up at work. It's going to change how you show up in your relationship. It's going to change how you parent. It's going to change all areas of your life to learn how to hold this kind of energy. Now, if you listened to the list of 7 signs and felt called out at all, like maybe even a little exposed, maybe there's, some parts in there that you're like, yeah, I could be better at that. You're not behind, right? You're not broken. You're just waking up. And hearing this today can do just that. It can just help you wake up to it. And that is the invitation. Struggling with boundaries is never just about saying no. It's about your relationship with your own needs, the relationship you have with your nervous system, your sense of self and worthiness and integrity. It is often the symptom of unhealed core wounds, old beliefs about your role in relationships, like stories that you have about yourself, patterns of self-abandonment, and fears of being truly known and seen. You don't even realize that that's truly what you're avoiding when you're struggling to set a boundary. It's so uncomfortable. It's hard for you to tolerate being truly seen and heard and known, and it might make you kind of shrivel up a little bit. So in my program, the Modern Empath Boundary Mastery, we explore how your boundaries are directly linked to these seriously deep levels of healing. And we go way beyond surface level strategies. I want to invite you into a new relationship with yourself. If today's episode stirred something in you, if you felt seen, maybe challenged, maybe inspired, I want to personally invite you to explore the Modern Empath Boundary Mastery program. It's where we take this work deeper. Where we heal the roots, not just manage the symptoms. Right now, I am offering an opportunity to join early and save $200 on the investment of this powerful 6-month experience. 6 months. We've did 3 months on the last round, and it was so amazing. It was so incredible, but everybody knew they needed more. So I've changed it. I've changed it to the 6-month experience. The offer's on the table until August 28th, and then the price will go back up and I will be selling it this fall. But if you sign up early, you have the opportunity to get started early on Monday, September 8th. Now go check out how this experience has been life-changing for other like-minded empaths. The link is in the show notes. And now as we're wrapping up here, I want you to just reflect. What would shift in your life if you truly believed your needs were downright sacred? If you were like, these are the gifts of the heavens, right? Like these needs are so freaking sacred and so, so important to your spiritual role here. What would be different? What would change in your business or at work or in your marriage, in your parenting, in your relationship with your body? Because the truth is, the way you hold boundaries is seriously a mirror of the way you hold yourself, the relationship you have with yourself. All right, so thank you for being here with me today. If you loved this episode, please rate and review the podcast, share it with a fellow empath, tag me on Instagram at Michelle Poverman. Until next time, honor your energy. I want you to protect your magic. And remember, your boundaries are an act of love. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to Into the Work Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. Don't forget to grab your free gift, your Shadow Work Transformation Bundle at michellepoverman.com. I've included everything you need to get started to break through the patterns of self-sabotage and finally start to heal the parts of yourself that are getting in the way of truly reaching your potential. From a powerful meditation designed to help you meet and embrace your shadow self, to the guide that's full of curated prompts and important questions to support you on this journey. This really can be the work for you to unmask the root cause of all the issues you've been experiencing, honestly, and start to feel free to believe in yourself and go for what you want. The link for this free bundle is in the show notes. And if you like this episode, I would be so grateful if you could take a moment and rate, click and follow, and leave a review. Of course, you can always follow me on socials at Michelle Poverman. And keep in mind, as you embark on your journey from spark to brilliance, remember, the universe is always conspiring in favor of your awakening. Everything that's happening is in support of you lighting your own fire within. So until we meet again, may your path be well lit and your heart be guided. Shine bright, seekers. Until next time.